Hi everyone! Just put down Myra for a nap, so I thought I'm going to shoot my baby weaning video because this is a highly requested video. And although I am not that old into the weaning process, I think I know probably more than maybe some of you who haven't started weaning your babies yet. So I think it will still be useful if I just share what my experience has been so far. So Myra is now 7 months old, and I started weaning her just shy of 6 months, so probably around 5.5 months. And I kind of knew that she was ready for food, or at least that I was confident enough to try food with her, because at 4, even when she was like 4 months, touching 5 months, we'd always bring her to the table with us when we're eating so that she gets used to the concept of food, because she was more aware at that point. So she'd watch us eat, and then slowly she would follow the food go from our plates to our mouths, and then slowly she started trying to grab the food as well on our plates and stuff. So you kind of get a sense that your baby's ready that way. And then the way the jaw starts to move, they start to drool a lot more, and all of these changes kind of indicate that you probably want to try. Also, the rules or the guidelines used to say that it's only at 6 months that you should feed your baby solid food, but now they've changed to say that when you think they're sitting upright and are showing all of these other signs, then you can try solid. So yeah, I started at 5.5 months, actually, when I went to Brussels to my parents' house. So the very, very first food that we gave her was a piece of fruit just to suck on, just to get some juice into her mouth, and then some mashed potato, very tiny amounts, again very like pureed completely with boiled water, and just a few spoons of it. And she just really showed a lot of interest. So then there was no stopping. After that, my mom's like, you've got to feed her now. So from that day, for I think the first 2 weeks, I fed her single purees just once a day, just a few spoons. And at that time, it was mostly just to get her exposed to different flavors, to different textures, just the concept of food in her mouth, something apart from milk. So there was just no pressure on either of us. I just do a single puree and just try different things like potato and sweet potato and carrot. She really, really loved carrot, still does. What else did I try? Dal, because we're Indians obviously, so have to have dal, and then khichdi. So just like my mum actually gave this to me, which is super helpful. She ground some roasted rice and dal together. I think she used red lentils or yellow lentils, I can't remember. And then she roasted it and then ground it into a powder, and they gave it to me. So all I need to do is literally put it in boiling water and just cook it. So yeah, I gave her like really simple to eat stuff. Tried yogurt, absolutely loves yogurt. She'd probably have yogurt 3 times a day if I gave it to her. And started with fruits like pear puree, apple puree, like really, really simple stuff. And just, yeah, went with that for the first 2 weeks. And then slowly, I think in week 3, I started mixing purees up. So I probably, like, if I made khichdi, then I added carrots, mashed carrots into it. What else did I try? I'm trying to remember. It just feels like ages ago, because now we've moved on so much since then, now that she's 7 months. But basically just like parsnip and pear, or sweet potato and carrot, or sweet potato and red peppers, stuff like that. I found this book really useful actually to start the weaning process. This is Ella's Kitchen First Foods book. You get it from Boots, and a good idea is to actually sign up for the Boots Parenting Club. I found it super helpful. They send you a magazine every now and then with heaps of really useful tips, and as part of the Parenting Club, you get this book. So in here, it has loads of like recipes starting at 6 months to leading onwards. So it gives you loads of combinations. I don't know if you could read on the screen, but things like, here they've got like papaya and raspberries, or just loads of different combinations, red cabbage and apples. So I basically use this book to start the combinations. It's often a good idea as well to follow these kind of ideas. Just said ideas twice, because they combine things with vitamin C, and is it iron that you need vitamin C to absorb? Something like that. So they give you specific combinations that work really well together. Obviously you can freestyle and do whatever you want, but it just kind of took the thinking away from my already busy day, and yeah, it gave me loads of ideas that I probably wouldn't have thought of myself. And then as we started moving into well and truly 6 months, then I started being a bit more adventurous and I started adding some spices. So I added a tiny bit of turmeric powder or cumin powder or coriander powder. I even added some ghee to some of her meals, some cinnamon to her porridge, just things like that. So we started with one meal a day for the first 2 weeks. Then we build on breakfast in the mornings, and initially I would just give her like porridge. Then when she was 6.5 months, so very recently, I started baby-led weaning at the same time. So before that, everything was pureed and I would sit down in front of her and feed her myself. But then as I found that she was getting more confident with the food and she was used to the fact that now she's going to have to eat, or now there's like meal time, then I started baby-led weaning. So I put, for breakfast, for example, I just cut up sliced pieces of toast and just place it in front of her, and strips of really well cooked omelette. And it's amazing, like you don't even have to do anything, but she would just automatically reach out, grab with her hands, so cute, with her tiny fists, and then put it to her mouth. It's just amazing what babies can do. So that's been amazing to see her feed herself. I still, on the side, as a backup, have something prepared which is softer, easier to take in. So baby-led weaning is really messy. Sometimes it goes in her mouth, sometimes it doesn't. More often it's like all over her and on the mat. So I have to make sure that she's still getting enough food in, she's still feeding enough. So I'll give her some purees on the side, always have a backup option ready. And then very recently, in the last week, I've added on the third meal, which is her dinner. And it is definitely challenging to have time to prepare all the 3 meals in the day, and they usually take like at least half an hour as well. Like every meal time, you've got to set it all up and make sure she's all bibbed up and then do the meals just at her own pace, slow and steady, and wait for her until she's done, then wash up, clean up everything. So it's like a proper task. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, and I think once you're like well and truly into the weaning process, or even before, I found this book really helpful. This is, what is it? By Holly Willoughby. It's called Truly Scrumptious Baby. And I found this really helpful for, again, single purees, but also lots of different combinations. I'm still using this book very much so. It breaks down all your meals from age order, so 6 months, then 7 to 9 months, and then 9 to 12 months. It only goes up to a year. And yeah, so like as you can see, I put ticks and then make notes next to it saying she absolutely loved this and I've tried this, and then I'd bookmark and just figure out what I want to make next. And then the other book that I have only just recently started using, again, this is amazing, is called Young Gums by Beth Bentley. This one's a bit more adventurous, I would say, in terms of food. It talks more about like more adult style meals, but prepared in a baby safe way, so that you're only using ingredients, the same ingredients for your meals and for your babies, except that you've probably cooked the baby's food more simply, so less spices, more mushy, less of textures and that kind of stuff. So I think that concept is really cool, because you don't really want to be stressing too much about separate meals for yourself and your baby. Like cooking with a baby alone is hard enough. I don't want to be doing separate meals, so I just bulk buy the ingredients that I want to make meals out of, and which will also do for the baby, which is really helpful. And this book I find just does that really well. So it's got loads of different photos. I actually just made this morning, which is a baby smoothie bowl, and then I had that for breakfast myself as well, which is super handy. This one doesn't quite break it down age-wise. You kind of got to figure out what your baby will like and what she won't like. So I haven't really used this all that much. I think Mara is not quite ready for a lot of the recipes in this book, but I will be, I'm sure, using this book a lot in the next few months. But yeah, this book, definitely used it a lot, and This one was a great starter. I still every now and then go back to it, but I think I've moved on now from the simple recipes in this book. But yeah, definitely a great one to start with. The only other thing I want to talk about in terms of weaning is it's all trial and error. Yes, it's stressful. It's really overwhelming. And it's only now, I mean, it's still challenging for me as well. Like sometimes I'll make something, I'll put so much heart and soul into it, and then she just won't eat it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't be too hard on yourself. Just take it easy. Give yourself enough time and space actually to both you and your baby. And just have fun, because it's a whole new world for them. You can't rush it. You can't have expectations that just because you made it, they've got to eat it. Although I am guilty of this. I do that sometimes as well. But sometimes they're in the mood and sometimes they're not. Also, a lot of people have messaged me about baby-led weaning. I was super scared in the beginning as well, and I did not do it for the longest time. But you'll be surprised. I used to just put food in front of her, and at first she wouldn't quite know what to do with it, and she'll just look at it and maybe like try to grab it, and then the next day she just put it straight in her mouth. So you'll be surprised at how smart your baby is. Also, the whole choking and gagging thing, yes, it's very scary. I watch Myra like a hawk when she puts food in her mouth. I'm getting a bit more confident now, but it's taken me a long time. And I think the way to do it is just really watch your baby very carefully. They will naturally gag. Choking is actually quite uncommon, but you need to be prepared for it. So know what the difference is. Choking is silent, gagging is very noisy. I have initially also put my finger and just taken food out because I was worried she's going to choke. But no, they're just kind of working and trying to learn how to push food to the back of the mouth. And if the pieces are too big, they'll just bring it right back to the front. So you can read up on it. Like I said, just do your research, watch videos. There was a video I quite liked. It's by Baby Center on YouTube. It's, I think you just Google finger foods, Baby Center, it should come up. And that was quite helpful to see what kind of foods you can actually give to your baby. What else? And I think that's really it. So have fun. It's a very messy process if you are doing baby-led weaning, but you just got to deal with it. Very recently now, I've actually started doing lunch outside with Myra because it's so difficult if you work around her nap times and her meal times, and all I'm going to do is just stay home, and I'm not the kind of person to stay home. I have to go out at least once a day to just keep my sanity. So I pack her lunch and I try and feed her on the go. And that's a learning process for me. So I don't think the learning ever stops, but it is exciting process. I hope you have loads of fun with your baby. And if there's any other questions, drop me a message. What else? So I think people really wanted to know what first foods I gave to Myra. So I think I've captured that in this video. The only thing I forgot to mention is that I started with a lot more savory items than sweet items, because I heard that if you start with more sweet, like more fruits, then they get used to the sweeter flavors and they just want more sweet as they grew up. Whereas if you start with the more bitter and savory flavors, then they tend to be less fussy. At least that's what I read. So that's what I've tried to do. I gave her more vegetables to begin with, and it's only in the last 2 weeks that I've introduced a lot more fruit in her diet. Alright, so I think that's enough. If there's any other questions or you want to drop me a line, as usual, just put it in the comments box down below or message me on Instagram through the direct messaging system. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!